I haven't made a video like this in a while. The last one was on Faresa and it was like around a few months ago. I actually planned to do a design analysis on Escoffier, but honestly, her design feels a bit too straightforward. Her design intention is so obvious, and since she's clearly a side character, I didn't really see the point in going too deep on that one. But if you want my quick take, I think her design is cute, though the fact that she's basically wearing nothing underneath her apron kinda annoys me. Still, I ended up pulling for her anyway because she's a strong unit. That said, her overall design doesn't feel that well thought out to me. Now, Rerir is a completely different story. He's a villain that, in my opinion, is both very well designed and well written. What makes him interesting to me isn't really his appearance because evidently it's not quite my style even though it's visually well done, but rather how he's written. He's the kind of character that you can genuinely sympathize with and feel sorry for, yet at the same time, you can't really justify what he did afterward either. Today, we'll be doing a very brief recap on Rerir's background, his possible references, analyze him visually, and I'll give you my opinions after that. As always, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Glitchxcity and I make lore and commentary videos on the channel to keep you company. But before that, allow me to remind you that Nefer and Farina's banner are ending in a few days. After their banner, you have a chance to pull for Arlecchino and Zhongli, and I can safely say that they are good enough in this current meta if you want to pull for them. However, you might want to keep a lookout on Durin, who is rumored to be our second dedicated Pyro sub DPS in the game, which is insane to think about because Xiangling is our only dedicated Pyro sub DPS for 5 years. If you need extra promo gems to pull or save for Durin, then allow me to introduce you to Lootbar. Lootbar is a reliable site for a fast, secure, and super reliable top-up experience for a Genesis Crystal. Additionally, they provide 25% discounts compared to normal prices in-game. Once you start your top-up, they will only ask for your UID, nothing else, so your privacy is guaranteed, and your items will arrive to your account in less than 2 minutes, including the first double top-up rewards if you haven't done that yet. With Miliastro Wonderland's release, you can also top up Kernel Nexus in Lootbar the same way as you do it with Primogems. If you're playing on consoles like PlayStation 5 or Xbox, they're available for both of them as well. Over 20,000 Trustpilot reviews are showing their satisfaction after using Lootbar, and if you have any problem with your transaction, their customer service is always available around the clock to help you out. Other than Genshin Impact, Lootbar is also available for other games as well, such as Honkai Star Rail, What the Wind Waves, Sailor Zone Zero, etc. Click the link in the description below and register to get an additional 10% coupon that can be combined with all of the discounts and receive special discounts for returning customers. Remember, discounts are great, but don't forget to spend responsibly. Now let's continue to the content. So let's start with a quick recap. I'll keep it short since most of you probably already know Rerir's story anyway, just think of it as a little refresher. Unlike most other sinners, who were once high-ranking figures before their fall, Rerir served as an executor and secret agent under King Ermin's orders. His job was to eliminate people carrying the Crimson Moon bloodline. He also had a girlfriend, Thelindis, a researcher from Universitas Magistrorum, and he was about to propose to her. However, both of them were keeping secrets. Rerir hid his true occupation, then Thelindis hid the fact that she herself was a descendant of the Crimson Moon bloodline. Over time, Rerir became wary and conflicted about his duties but continued to carry them out regardless. It was around this time that the Abyss began whispering to him. Not long after he executed one of the Crimson Moon children, he discovered that Thelindis was his next target. The shock of that truth sent him spiraling. Refusing to continue the killings, he freed his next target instead. One day, Dainsleif and the Parisians gathered to rescue Dainsleif's brother, Featherfalnir. Rerir helped them, and during that event, the abyssal power that Ermin had been storing started to overflow. In desperation, Rerir rushed to Universitas to save Thelindis, but she leapt into the Moon Gate before he could even reach her. In the aftermath, Rerir joined the other four to become one of the 5 sinners of Cainvia, all in hopes of saving Thelindis. However, after jumping into the portal, his body was torn apart and scattered across Notcry. Those fragments became the wild hunts that we see today. From that point on, Rerir became obsessed with the power of the moon and eventually taking on the title as the Moon Hunter. He stole the power of Kuvaki to restore his abyssal strength, and even used the Wild Hunt monsters to drain the Kuvaki sealed within the Tidestill stones that the Lightkeeper set. According to Albedo, Rerir is no longer a human, but rather a manifestation of the Abyss itself, a sharp contrast to Rhine Daughter, whose still retains her sanity despite receiving the power of the Abyss. This goes the same with Surtology as well, and likely Featherfall as well. And that's pretty much where his story ends, with the rest unfolding in the arc and quest we experience in the game. Now let's analyze his reference. So there are two prominent references in the making of Genshin's Rerir, that being a Nordic mythology of the same name in Volsunga Saga, and also German folklore of the Wild Hunt. In the Volsunga Saga, Rerir is Volsung's father, and Volsung is the main character of the said mythology. Rerir's father, however, was murdered by his own brothers, and in return, Rerir avenged his father by murdering his uncles. He became a ruler after that and had a wife who is left unnamed in the story, but it is said that the wife prayed to Odin and Frigga for a child. Eventually, a Jotun in the shape of a crow named Hulot gave Rerir's wife a fruit of fertility, and she eventually became pregnant. However, this pregnancy lasted for 6 years. Rerir died of illness during his campaign to pacify the land, while his wife died during a cesarean section. The boy born from the wife is Volsung, who became the main character of the said story. There are certain similarities between Genshin's Rerir and Volsunga Saga's Rerir. Both of them have a significant other. Rerir and his wife died tragically in both stories, and a bird is also involved in their love story. If you don't know, Featherfall's reference is a hawk on top of Yggdrasil, and both him and Hilot play a part in the couple's tragic end. As for the Wild Hunt, in the game, they are parts of Rerir's body, but it works a bit deeper than that. If you read the Wild Hunt enemy description, the big guy came from the depths of Hyperborea, while the smaller ones are the Lightkeepers. How it worked is that the deceased are contaminated by abyssal energy, likely Rerir's corpse in this case, and they became ghouls or angry spirits that we now see today. They say that these monsters are unrest souls who have problems of their own prior to their deaths, hence why they became who they are now. This matches with the German mythology where the Wild Hunt are seen as ghostly, supernatural beings that are also rushing through the skies and forests. They are seen as a bad omen, and those who encounter them will be adopted by the Hunts into the supernatural realm. The humans who join the Wild Hunts will be granted a piece of a human body in the end, like legs or hands, etc. That's his possible reference. Now let's talk about his design. There's not much to say about his pre-corrupted form since it's very straightforward, just an ordinary man working as an executor under the king's orders. But there are a few interesting details when it comes to his personality, facial structure, and his hairstyle. His expression really stands out. He looks like someone burdened by deep anxiety, constantly tired, with that gray line around his eyes that could easily pass as a dark circles or eye bags. It might be just makeup, but honestly, it's hard to imagine someone like him, an executioner, spending time on their appearance either. It fits perfectly with his long, messy hair and his serious, almost emotionless demeanor. His clothes are also quite simplistic, a coat, a shirt, and a pants. Even NPCs like La Signora and Capitano have more effort when it comes to their costumes, but not Rerir as he keeps it simple. This pattern continues on in his corrupted form, which in my opinion has some of the smartest design choices ever. At first glance, Rerir's design doesn't seem all that complex. He's covered in bandages with a coat and boots that looks pretty standard. But it's the smaller details that makes him really interesting. His design prominently features magenta and hints of pink, colors that usually lead more towards the feminine side of the spectrum. But it works perfectly for Rerir because his powers came from both the Abyss and the Moon. The Abyss is usually associated with purple, while the Crimson Moon ties to red, and when you mix those colors together, you get magenta. That's exactly what we see in Rerir. If you look closely, you can spot patches of pinkish magenta skin beneath the bandages, which lines up with Albedo's description that he's no longer a human, but an abyssal being. There's also eye motifs that appears when he uses his powers. He even has the same symbol on his palm. This fits right with Genshin's death symbolism, since Renova also has multiple eye motifs in her design, and even Arlecchino carries similar symbols on her accessories. Then there's the bandages, which likely symbolizes a already broken body. According to the lore, Rerir's body shattered to pieces after he fell into the Moon Gate, so the bandages make sense. They're holding what's left of him together. They double it down by making the bandages and clothing torn, making it clear that he went through some shit. They're also black, which ties into the theme of death and decay. Speaking of black, his hair is another interesting detail. In Rerir's animated short, his hair suddenly turns white in an instant, and that actually references a real-life phenomenon called the Marie Antoinette syndrome, or Canadized subita in medical terms. The story goes that Marie Antoinette's hair turned white the night before her execution. While most experts agree it can't literally happen overnight, the change can occur rapidly enough that it appears to be that way. The cause is usually linked to extreme fear or anxiety, which is why gags in cartoons often show a character's hair turning white the moment they're terrified. In Rerir's case, it could be tied to the abyssal energy he absorbed, or it might reflect the extreme emotional stress he was under after losing his fiancée-to-be and doing everything he could to get her back no matter the cost. Finally, let's talk about the spear. I actually got this idea from Lofi's shorts, but here's my own take on it. Rerir wields two spears. One is basically his pay-to-win weapon skin, and yes, I'll keep calling it that way, and the other is the one that he actually uses in combat. We'll focus on the second one since it's the more relevant of the two. The spear itself has a really unusual shape. It doesn't look all that practical, but the design is interesting. It features a crescent moon, 3 spikes, and one longer spike that appears to pierce through the moon itself. Those 3 smaller spikes could symbolize the 3 moon goddesses, Arya, Sonnet, and Kanan. The 4th spike is especially interesting because it pierces the crescent moon and carries the color gradient of purple and magenta, likely referring to the abyss. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Rerir killed the moon goddesses because we already knew what happened to them. Instead, it could represent his desire to steal their power, or more specifically, their moon marrow. That 4th spike might symbolize either the power of the crimson moon or his intent to take the energy of the new moon. And while the crescent moon technically isn't the new moon, in the lunar cycle, it does appear right after it, so the symbolism could still tie together. Whether or not my interpretation here is accurate, the main idea is clear. The design likely represents the moon goddesses, and the spike piercing the moon is very likely meant to symbolize Rerir himself, the moon hunter. That should be the analytical part of this video, so now let's move on to my personal opinion. Just a reminder, this part is completely subjective. You're allowed to have your own opinions just as I am allowed to have mine. Just be respectful and don't be an asshole about it. With that said, like I mentioned in the intro, Rerir is an incredibly well-designed character. Even though his visual style isn't exactly my cup of tea, I still think it's very well done and with all of the layered references behind it. He looks really cool, and whether you like him in a simping kind of way or not, I think we can all agree that he's pretty badass. Honestly, making a character like him work so well with pink and magenta tones is impressive because these colors are usually on the feminine side, so huge props to the design team for that. I also really like how realistic his personality feels before he was corrupted. Being an executor is both mentally and morally exhausting. It's the kind of job you'd probably want to hide from your loved ones or at least feel uncomfortable talking about it. That's exactly what happened with Rerir. His role was to execute people with the Crimson Moon bloodline, but unlike in real life where being an executor can still be considered as an honorable job, in Rerir's case, he knew deep down that it was wrong. He saw how King Ermin's behavior changed and that inner conflict started eating away at him. So when his next target turned out to be his own girlfriend, he snapped. He refused to continue killing because she was innocent. Just because she carried the bloodline didn't mean she deserved to die. Their love dynamic is also really well written. You can feel the mutual trust and affection between them, but at the same time, the fact that they both hid their identities make their relationship painfully human because you don't want your significant other to know your ugly sides. Sometimes keeping secrets feel easier in the moment, but it only builds towards tragedy later. Felindis even said it herself in the Archon Quest, and that's what makes their story so good. You can tell they were meant for each other, but when the truth finally came out, it destroyed them both. Rerir became the person he is now, and Felindis either died after entering the Moon Gate or simply vanished. One thing I find really interesting about Rerir is how he completely lost himself after regaining some of his strength. He no longer feels human emotions, and all that is left is his desire to destroy anything that stands in his way to reach his goals. But honestly, from what I can tell, he's always been like that ever since he got corrupted anyway. Even when we first encounter him as a shadowy figure, he's already obsessed with regaining his lost power. It's just that once he obtains a physical body again, things get even worse. The moment he regained that power, a rush of memories and emotions hit him all at once, and it drove him further into madness. Unlike other sinners who still retain some level of sanity, like Reinhardt who can communicate with the Shades or Sutology who shows moments of mercy, Rerir is nothing like that. He's completely gone, he lost his sanity and became insane. In the end, he hurts others purely for his own desires. We saw that clearly in the Archon quest. He shows no mercy to anyone around him. That's what makes him such a conflicting character. You can sympathize with his pain and tragic loss, but you can't justify his actions either. After all, he became one of the 5 sinners, one of the very reasons why Khaenri'ah fell. His selfishness brought destruction to countless people, and even though everything he did was for the sake of his lover, it still doesn't excuse what he has become. And tell me this, if you were in Thelindis' shoes and learned what your boyfriend had become, would you really be happy seeing him like that, even if it was all for your own sake? I don't think so. Granted, we have no idea what actually happened to Thelindis after that. It's very likely she's either somewhere beyond Teyvat's false sky or has become one with Rerir. Either way, the point still stands. When your significant other loses their sanity for your own sake, I think most people would be terrified of them. Just think about it for a second, alright? How would you react if you found out your partner killed others for you? Man, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. But yeah, that's my own opinion on Rerir. Overall, I think he's a very well designed character. Somehow, HoYoverse always manages to make their villains incredibly well designed and visually compelling. From what I've learned back in art school, that's actually a really good way to tell a story. I still remember my lecturer saying that villains should often be written and designed better than the main characters, because that's what makes a story truly interesting, and I completely agree. Genshin's storytelling really started to peak around Sumeru, where the main villain was written with so much depth, that being Scaramouche. Even in Fontaine, while there wasn't a clear villain per se, Arlecchino, as a morally great character, still stood out as a great example of a strong writing. Natlan's Archon quest might have fallen a bit short, but its world quests had amazing storytelling. Ochkan, for example, could be seen as a villain, but his intentions were good from the start. Still, just like Rerir, it's hard to fully sympathize with him because of how extreme his methods were. The same goes with Kukulkan. Even though his goal was to save the world, he only cared about saving his own race and didn't intend to protect humanity. It wasn't until he saw Little Buddy's choice that he realized he'd been lying to himself all along, because deep down, he still believed in humanity. Sometimes, or honestly most of the time, characters like this are what makes stories truly interesting. They bring conflict, they keep you invested, they make you want to understand why they became the way they are, and they let you decide for yourself whether they're redeemable or not. Right now, Genshin Impact's main conflict revolves around one thing: the heavenly principles, and even now the community is still divided about him. Some people don't think the heavenly principles is truly villain, while others believe it to be the opposite. Personally, I'm on the latter side, because, well, he stole Teyvat, end of story. But I think that's exactly why the heavenly principles keep the players hooked. Everyone wants to see how it all ends, especially with all of the theories linking him to Kevin or Final from the Honkai series. We'll save that discussions for another video though. For now, let me know your thoughts about Rerir in the comments below. Jana!